Now, when growing anything in containers, especially things like potatoes and tomatoes, there goes a saying which I created, and that is, fail to use a mulch and fail to harvest much. Now, I really like using mulch in the garden, especially in containers like this, for growing my potatoes and tomatoes. And I think mulch is a gardener's best friend, and there are many benefits of using it. Now, it does seem like a very boring topic when you first think about it, but hear me out. Mulch is a gardener's best friend, and I'm going to tell you in this video why you should be using mulch for your containers or just in the ground, and I'm going to go over the many benefits of using mulch as well, so do keep on watching to find out. Now, there are many things which you can use as a mulch. I like using the straw which comes in our horse manure, and you can use any type of straw really, it doesn't really matter. You could use grass clippings, you could use wood chips, there are different things, fallen leaves, as long as it forms a layer on top of the soil and stops the moisture from evaporating. See, what happens is when the moisture evaporates from the soil, it gets caught under the layer of mulch and falls back down into the soil, so you have a much easier time watering. If it wasn't for this mulch on all my potato buckets this year, I probably wouldn't have achieved a crop. Now, we had a very dry spring, so I would have had a very hard time watering if it wasn't for me using this straw as a mulch on my 33 buckets of main crop potatoes. It would have been, I wouldn't have had a crop, end of story. And I had enough of a hard time watering them as it is even with the mulch. And I also use mulch for my container grown tomato plants as well in the greenhouse. And again, this helps with watering. It maintains a much more consistent level of moisture in the soil. You see, when soil moisture is inconsistent with tomatoes, you get a thing called blossom end rot. And I'll put a card at the end of the video so you can go and check out my video all about blossom end rot. But applying a mulch makes blossom end rot less likely to occur. The main cause of blossom end rot is inconsistent watering, and applying a mulch is going to help with that. Now, besides watering, there are other benefits of using a mulch as well. Applying a mulch in containers or just in the garden alone is going to suppress weeds. Imagine an annual weed seed underneath the mulch. It's not going to be able to grow up through it, so you're going to have a much easier time with weeds. They're not going to be able to push through this mulch. And even perennial weeds are going to have a hard time getting through this as well. And then another reason why you should use mulch, it also breaks down into the soil, adding valuable nutrients to it. Now, some materials are going to take longer to break down than others, like wood chips, for example, are going to take a good 1 to 2 years at least before they start breaking down into the soil and adding nutrients. And you should be a little bit careful when you're adding wood chips as a mulch as well. You only want to apply it as a layer on the top. You don't want it to be mixed into the soil because it can steal nitrogen from the soil as it breaks down. Straw, on the other hand, breaks down a little bit quicker. So mulch helps with watering, helps suppress weeds, and also eventually breaks down into the soil, adding valuable nutrients. But what other benefits are there of using mulch? With tomatoes, if you have a mulch on the surface of the soil, you're less likely to have any soil splashing up onto the stem of the plant when you're watering. So you're less likely to have a problem with disease. See, if you were to water with it just being bare soil, you can end up with soil splashing up onto the plant, and all the nasty pathogens which are in the soil can encourage disease. So I apply a mulch to my tomato plants not only for the easier watering and the weed suppressants, but also to help stop disease. When growing potatoes, whether it be in the ground outside or in these containers. Applying a mulch on the top surface of the soil is going to help prevent the sun from touching those tubers and turning them green. Now, you can't eat green potatoes. They contain a chemical called solanine, which is very bitter and toxic, so you don't really want this. Now, with any tubers that form on the top layer of soil near the surface, if it wasn't for the mulch, the sunlight would very easily reach them and turn them green. But the mulch stops that. So that is another reason why I like using mulch for my potato plants. So that was just a quick one today, going over all the reasons why you should be using mulch. I think it's definitely something that's overlooked by a few gardeners, and honestly, I swear by it. Mulch is your best friend and I will always use it. I said the only thing really to be careful of is, make sure you're not overwatering your plants when you have a mulch on there, because if you overwater them, the moisture is going to stay in there really. It can get too wet, so make sure you're not overwatering if you have a mulch. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, remember, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe so you can see when I upload new content just like this. I hope to see you in the next video. Happy gardening, and remember, enjoy it no matter the weather.